Hey everybody, welcome back to the G-Center Dream podcast, where we believe a G-Center Dream, anything is possible, nothing is impossible, and the possibilities are endless. I'm Caleb, this is Zach.
Hello.
And we want to enjoy life and build God's kingdom. It's been a while, but we back, baby. As I understand it, Zach has a pretty big update. He has been ordained in the Catholic Church, and so now he is Father Zach. So welcome, Father Zach, to the G-Center Dream podcast.
Yeah, I mean, Father Zach, I think, goes as Zach's now a father.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that text you sent me was really confusing then.
But yeah, I transitioned my title from just Zach regular person to Zach is now a father. And now there's a child who I can say that is my son. And now I can get mad at people and yell about things like, that's my son. Yeah. Back off. You know, just
yeah, you did that to me the other day.
Embracing those father things.
I got a little bit too close to Sebastian. You said, that's my son. I said, whoa, calm down on the dad strength, Zach.
And then I asked, Caleb for feedback, like, how'd that sound? Were you scared?
I was quaking in my boots. Yeah. So congrats, Zach and Tori, for having their first child. Also, shout out to their brother and sister. They also had a child 4 weeks before that.
Yeah, it's almost a month to the day. So
yeah,
month and a day apart.
Sebastian and Skylar are going to be best friends and cousins growing up. So that's exciting. Is that everything you dreamed of and more? It's G-Center Dream podcast. As you dreamed about being a dad, did all your dreams come true, as Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite once said?
I mean, I think so far. Obviously, there's a huge learning curve that happens of the joke, right, of all the new parents, like the second the baby cries and you rush to them, and then by your third kid, they're all like, he's fine. And so we're definitely in that new parent phase, but I will say that's because we have no clue what is normal and what is a life-threatening thing happening. And so the first time he coughed and we were like, is he choking, right? And then the first time he spit up a lot, we're like, is that spit up or is he throwing up everywhere? And because when you go to leave the hospital and after the doctor visits, they will give you a list of things that are oh, this is totally normal, but. And so they're like, yeah, he'll when he cries, he'll feel warmer. Babies usually run a lot warmer, but if his temperature reaches this degree, bring him in immediately and do not hesitate. And it's whoa, every time he feels warm, we're is this that moment where we need to rush him in? So they I don't know. It felt like this fear that they put in you, which is obviously, I don't want to be casual about something that is life-threatening, but at the same time, I have no idea what is life-threatening and not. And so everyone's like, oh, just trust your intuition. I was like, my intuition's starting at 0 here. My understanding is based off of how I care for dogs. So I feed them and they use the bathroom, and that's similar to newborns. They just need to eat, sleep, and poop. So
nice.
We're moving through it. But yeah, that was definitely the craziest change at first. And you're also sleep deprived. So you're working on you feel like a crazy person. You're normal enough to notice how crazy you are. It's a weird, you just, when you're sleep deprived and you're I know this isn't normal and I feel like a crazy person, but I just don't really have control over it because I'm just so tired and life's just happening. But definitely getting better. He's sleeping really well not through the whole nights, but he's sleeping well. And so we've been able to get more sleep, which has been the biggest change. So that definitely makes it more, it feels like that first night we were home, we got maybe 40 minutes of sleep through the whole night, and then just going a whole night after the whole labor and everything at the hospital, and then coming home and not sleeping at all. You're just holy crap.
Yeah.
Is this going to be nonstop for weeks?
When will I ever sleep again?
Exactly. Literally. But luckily, we called up Tori's parents and can you come and just watch him when he sleeps so that we sleep? Because that's a huge thing that someone told us to do is when you first have a kid, you will not sleep even when he's sleeping well, because you're going to constantly like wake up and be like, I need to check on him. Cause there's all those like things that you're like, did a blanket get on his face? You know, and it's just like, they're literally they're durable, but they're also very fragile where it's like, this is terrifying to think like literally something like falling on his face.
Yeah.
And when I think about it, it's like if you were in bed strapped in because we swaddle him up, like, and something fell on your face, like you can't get it off. You know, that's like terrifying. But yeah. And so like they
New
came over that
nightmare
first
unlocked.
day.
Thanks. I'm gonna dream tonight. Like, oh my god. When you think over the next like 18 years, what's one thing that you're like, wow, I cannot wait to do that with my son?
Yeah, I think,
and my wife, I guess, or maybe it's just you two. I don't know.
So I don't want to compare children to dogs all the time, but here's my point.
Yeah, it's probably
here's my point. When you get like a puppy and it's really difficult because they're not sleeping and they're not trained, you know, they're not potty trained and all this stuff. But once you get through that phase and the dog is more obedient, going on a walk and like just living life with a great dog is so enjoyable, and it just adds so much life. And I think that same principle applies, but to a whole nother dimension with kids where it's like, and so that's what I'm excited for, is because I think about like our two dogs were pretty difficult because one was a rescue. And so like retraining him through all that was difficult. And our other dog, she was just crazy as a puppy and just had tons of energy and was like, would not potty train and would pee in the house constantly. But now like they bring me just so much happiness just playing with them, and them just like, they're very good dogs. And so thinking about that, where I was like, I can't wait for the day that he's able to walk, or when he's just old enough that we can get out of the house more. Cause like right now we're kind of tied to, we can only go out for like 2 hours. And so when we reach the point where we can like go to the zoo with him, I think that's going to be really fun. And then when he starts talking to us, I think that's going to be really fun. And like, just, I don't know, all the things that you do that are normally like enjoyable, I think are 10 times more enjoyable when you have, I'm guessing, that's what I'm looking forward to, is when you have a kid like helping you do it. Like, it'd be fun if he like helped me cook. Like, I think that'd be awesome. And like running around just outside, or like playing, you know, in the backyard and going places. And I think it's just adds another layer where there's difficulty with it, but I think that enhances like why it's so enjoyable when it goes well, because you're just like, this is amazing and so much fun. And yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to a lot, is just that there's just like a joy that I think will come with it. I mean, obviously it's not like, oh, this sucks, but like we're already seeing that already, just like when he smiles at us and you're just like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, I don't know why it is. It's just, it's a baby smiling, but you're like, oh my gosh, he was crying for weeks and now he's finally smiling for the first time. And it's just like this huge victory. And so I think I'm hoping that just continues. We're just like, each small thing that happens, we're just like, yes, this is great, we're making progress. But I think, yeah, just that I'm definitely looking forward. Everybody says I'll miss the newborn phase because you can't just like sit and watch TV and hold him, but I'm getting bored of that. So I think I am ready to go to the next phase. We'll see if I come back on the podcast and say otherwise. But
it's such an interesting answer. I was like thinking like, I can't wait to go to the Grand Canyon. That's just me. I don't even know why I want to go to the Grand Canyon with my kid.
I'm hoping I'm not going to be the parent who's like, I can't wait for the day he's 18 and I will kick him out.
Get out. That would have been a crazy answer if you were like, the next 18. I wish that was tomorrow, man. I wish this kid was out of here. It'd be pretty terrible. Man. No, you're a good dad, I think. So your answer is definitely better than the Grand Canyon. So I'm sure you'll have a great life with your son and sons, daughters. Already thinking about number 2?
We definitely don't want to just have one. But I think we'll see how close or how far apart they will still be. Because right now it's very much like, I think what happens is you forget how tough like the first phases are. So at the point you start forgetting, then you're like, oh, we could do another kid. Or when it's not as like painful. But yeah, it was just like Tori's whole process of going to labor was pretty stressful. Not like crazy, but it was just intense. And so that there's thinking about that, and it's like, I don't want to go through that for a while. So but we'll see. Definitely want to have more kids one way or another, maybe adopt or something. That's one thing we've been wondering, not like seriously looking into it, but we've always considered it.
So I want to ask you like a pretty real question. Not that these haven't been real, but I don't know. I feel like one of the tensions in life, especially in our society, is this idea that when you start a family, there's a lot of sacrifices that have to be made, which that is a correct idea. Like, that is a truthful idea. I believe one of the tensions that we have to live in is with the idea of starting a family, that a lot of your own personal dreams are either sidelined or just completely and outrightly sacrificed. And which I totally get, because life changes, obviously, when you're now responsible for a human being that is depending on you to provide for them and all of those things. But for you, I guess, have you felt a shift within like your heart or soul where you're like, yeah, like I'm totally willing to sacrifice these things, or I don't even feel that. I feel like I can trust God and still continue on this path that I'm going on, or I don't know, like what, because I feel like I watched this fantastic film this one time, and the name of it is escaping me, but it was so good. I'll have to look it up, but basically it was about this girl who takes a pregnancy test in college. And so there's like a section of the movie up until this point where she is wondering if she's pregnant. So she takes this pregnancy test, and then the movie splits into two different timelines from then on, of her being positive in her pregnancy test and her being negative in her pregnancy test. It's wonderful storytelling because it's telling two different stories at the same time. And at the end of it, they merge back together, and it's like, whatever happens, like, it's going to be okay. Anyways, I think that's a very much a societal thing of like, do I sacrifice my dreams, or my kids, my life now? And I think that brings a lot of fear and a lot of questions. But what have you been feeling so far, I guess, in all of that?
Yeah. So one of the first things me and Tori said right off the bat was like, we don't want to lose ourselves and just be like, have our identity become parents. Because I think that can sometimes create like toxic parenting. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's just like, it's unhealthy, I think, in some ways, where, right, like your whole life is your kids, and then if your kids leave, and then you're just left with like, oh, what in the world do I do with myself now? So like, I understand that it obviously needs to be a huge part, because you don't want to be the person who's like, oh, my life's not changing, I'm just going to go keep doing the things I want to do, and I'm going to go, and that's where you see like a distance starts being created between kids and parents, because the parents or a parent is like, oh, I'm not compromising and I'm going to go do what I want to do. And then the kid's like, oh, am I less important than that? Like, you don't want to create that relationship. But I think at the same time, me and Tori said, like, we don't want to just be consumed into being parents, and we still want to be who we are, because I've definitely seen how easy it is to be consumed, because at least like this first stage of his life is so hands-on. Like, he needs to eat every 3 hours, just 3 hours around the clock. And so your life is literally bound to just like a 3-hour segment schedule. So it's like, oh, we can't just like pick up and go do certain stuff. And then, so like, that's where you can already see like, all we do is just take care of this kid all day long. And that's what it feels like. But at the same time, that's where, right, like, I'm looking forward to the moment he is at a place that we can go and do things. And it's like, okay, we're bringing him with us and we're going to go and do these things. But I think the other part of it is, because there is now a massive commitment to taking care of him, it really brings into question everything that I did with my day, everything I did with my time, everything I want to do. And it puts like a very serious like intentionality question behind it. And it's like, in terms of like a relationship with, I don't know why I'm thinking of it this way, but like with two people and they're just like casually in a relationship, and it's like, oh, if they don't care if they're just casually in a relationship forever, it's like, will they ever come to the point where it's like, okay, how do you really feel about me? Are we going to get married? Whatever. But when somebody is like, okay, I am like moving out of the country, are we going to get married or am I going to move? And then it's like suddenly you have to like answer these big questions and get serious about it and get intentional about it. And I think that's kind of the same thing that's happening, but in, I guess I'll say, my relationships with these other things to do, right? So like I have tons of random little hobbies. And so it's like, am I going to actually pursue one of these things or not? And then that extends into things beyond hobbies, right? And so that's, like you said, like chasing your dreams. Am I going to intentionally pursue this or not? Because my day can easily be filled with it. My day is automatically filled with taking care of Sebastian, taking care of the house, helping Tori do all these things, and then just like managing life. And so if I don't carve out time for it and put it on like a wall that says, you know, on your board of things to do that says, this is what we are doing, I think that's where people can lose sight of that. Because yeah, I think that's how it is. That your day is just automatically filled. And so if you don't place something there and say this is going to happen or not, or just like, I think it also, you have to be flexible with it too. Cause I think that's the other crazy thing with babies is like, we were about to leave for a doctor's appointment and he had a blowout in his diaper, and it was like, we got to change him and we got to get a whole new outfit for him. We got to take him out, it was like take him out and clean. So it was like, took 5 to 10 minutes to do, which isn't much. But then in our minds, we're like, we're already late for this doctor's appointment. And obviously they don't care because they deal with kids. So they're like, we understand. But it was just that thing where it was like, in a split second, he set us back 10 minutes. And it wasn't like he was like, I'm going to wait till we're ready to go, you know? But it was just like that thing where it's like, you have to be flexible, but at the same time. So yeah, I think to answer the question of like chasing dreams and all this stuff, I think it is something where you have to just take it a little more seriously, and you just like have to want it. I think that's the thing that's more important, is like, are you willing to let this thing go? And yeah, maybe that's the way, is I would just say like, just write it down and say, I am willing to let this go. I am not willing to let this go. And you almost have to like do that and just be brutal about it. And then maybe say, okay, when I've achieved this one, then I'll put this one back on the list or something. But because I think, at least right now, I feel like there is not enough time to do all the things I want to do. And yet before he was born, I wasn't doing all the things I wanted to do, and I had more time. So clearly one of these things is like, needs to get either pushed off the list or just written up as, if I don't get this done for 10 years, that's fine. You know, or something like that. Or like, or maybe I'll work on it for 5 minutes out of the week or something really low. But yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, is like, if you were to just take on another job, what would you do with now your even less spare time? It's in your spare time, or your time to use is at a higher premium now. So
yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to look at it, because even as you were explaining that, I was like, even though I don't have a kid, and I think a kid is hands down probably is a very, very important thing. That's something that demands, like, once you have a kid, it will demand, he or she will demand your time. And there's just no way around that time that is demanded, which I think is,
and you don't want to like ignore them, right?
Right. And I think that's a good thing, to be like not neglectful of your child and to like provide for their needs and all of those things. But I think with that perspective that you were explaining, it's like, in my life, there are certain things that I just have to do, and it takes up a certain amount of time. And like I said, when I have a kid, I think that just increases that, but the principle is still the same of, there are going to be some things that demand my time that I cannot get around. But then there's other time that I just fill with whatever I deem important to myself. And I think for me, something that I'm even learning right now, and I don't even have kids, is that how easily I fill my time, and how I'm realizing through intentional thought, as you were saying, that some of these things are so like not beneficial, and some things that I was like, I do enjoy, or like that I do like, but I'm starting to discover other things that are more beneficial or that I enjoy more. And so now I'm sacrificing those things for other things. And I think what kind of jolted me awake from that was realizing that although I enjoy doing these things and that they are beneficial, that doesn't mean that they are the most enjoyable or the most beneficial. And that's been just fun for me to be able to go like, yeah, like I really enjoy playing like video games. And I was doing it for 3 or 4 hours, and I don't think it was a detriment to myself or to people around me. Like, it was fine. But now I'm realizing like, oh wait, like there's other things I enjoy more. So now I'm only going to play for like an hour more. And I think, or an hour, and then I'm going to do these other things. And I think it's the same principle as what you're saying, is when you become a parent, and I don't want to speak for all parents. I think a lot of people's like, everybody's story is different, right? Lots of people have different financial situations or family situations, or kids with maybe more needs than others. But I think you're still correct in saying that, like, no matter what your situation is, there is going to be a set amount of time that is demanded from you. And for some people in some seasons, it's 24 hours of their time. And like, that's fine. But I think for a lot of people, it's a big chunk of time, but then there's still those little pieces that you should have dedicated for yourself. Like, you should dedicate time, I think. The way I think and believe is like, I want to dedicate time to my spouse. Like, they will demand time and I'll happily give it to them. My kids will demand time and I'll happily give it to them. And then if I have 30 to 45 minutes a day, what am I going to use that time for? And I think that's a great principle that you just explained. And I think it's applicable to any stage of life. So I think that's very wise.
I just thought of, this is kind of an interesting mental picture that I thought when you're saying that, is like, instead of listing, the way I think of like my things to do is literally because I have a little chalkboard that I write, and I have, work projects going on, books I want to read, home projects, and then like random just things I want to do. And that's how I think of my stuff. And so when I have a spare moment, I look at that board and say, okay, which thing am I going to cross off? And now I'm thinking about it, I should almost make a bracket, a March Madness bracket of all the things I want to do, and then say, which one's more important? Which one, like that. Not just more important, but like you said, there are things that you do that are more enjoyable than other things, yet some of those things are easier to do. Like, water always flows downhill through the easiest path. And so it's like, you will always naturally just flow to the easiest path, which is usually video games, being on your phone and stuff. So if you want to use that time for something other than that, then it's like, okay, if these two are on the bracket, which one wins out on what I'm going to do? And then you go around the bracket, and then you're going to come to your top 4, your final 4 or your final one that says, if I have time, it's this one. He's the winner. He beats out all the other things. And that is what I do with my time. But yeah, I just thought of that like as a different way, instead of just like, oh, because I pick from a list and I go, which one do I want to do right now? Versus like, which one won the battle and needs to be and deserves my time.
And I think to add to not just like the most enjoyable or the most beneficial, I think there are times where I'll think something isn't relaxing because it takes a little bit more effort, like playing my piano. Like, that takes a little more effort than like scrolling social media or playing video games. However, it is no less relaxing than those two. But I think in my mind, I go,
it requires more effort.
It requires more effort, so I won't, like, I just want to relax. Like, it's been such a long day. I just want to like sit on my couch, like play video games, scroll through my phone. And what I'm learning is that I can sit at my piano, enjoy it more than scrolling through social media. It's more beneficial to like, I think, just my overall health, mentally and physically, to like learn how to play. And it is just as much, if not more, relaxing because it's not like I'm putting on a concert or like there's any pressure in it. It's literally like, it's music. Like it's getting into my bones, into my soul. And I think that's just like another one of those things where you're talking about like yeah, our habits are usually where the water flows, and our habits are developed usually because they're the easiest things to develop. And yeah, that's just something I'm learning too, is even in my laziness, or like in the time where I need to relax and recharge, like reading a book, like, yeah, it's just as relaxing as scrolling through social media. I think it's more beneficial and more enjoyable. And so, yeah, just interesting lifestyle choices that I'm like, I can't believe I lived my life for so long where I was just like scrolling so much. I know we talk about that all the time, but that's just like one of those things where I'm like,
it's hard to break out
yeah,
of.
right, yeah. And I think it is easy, and it is enjoyable, and it is relaxing. It is beneficial to an extent. And I guess I'm just learning. It's like, no, there's more things, and I want to be using my time to do those things. So no, that's good. So yeah, I think we've been gone for a little bit now. We did record some episodes; those will be coming out. We have just, I think, learned and grown a lot since our last episode. One thing that I wanted to talk about is just this whole idea of enjoying life, and how I've been kind of discovering what that means for myself. And I think what it's based in, and I feel like this word is thrown around in Christian circles a lot, maybe outside of it too, but this whole idea of like identity, like who are you and who am I? And as cliche as it sounds, I feel like since we've recorded last, I have really just rediscovered who I am in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways what I enjoy, and that the things that I do enjoy and how I'm wired to be and how I view life isn't wrong. And I think for a while, for a period of about 2 years, I was so hard on myself, and I was just taking my own personality so seriously, and every word that I said so seriously, and every thought that I had so seriously, instead of realizing that, like, oh, this is who I'm created to be, and there's nothing wrong with me. I just have to figure out not how to fix myself, because I believe God created me how I'm supposed to be, but how does my mindset and viewpoint and perception of the world and the things I enjoy fit into the greater story of God's plan and God's will, and who am I when I'm with my friends and with my family and when I'm by myself, and those things should be the same person, and with my career, with my mountain, and just realizing that, man, God created me exactly how I'm supposed to be. I can take that into any situation and enjoy it, help people, enjoy God's presence. And even though it doesn't look like how you maybe live your life, or my friends live their lives, or my parents live their lives, or my heroes live their lives, that's okay, because we all have different roles. We all have different stories. And hopefully, like, saying this in a way that it's not like standoffish, like you do you and I'm gonna do me, but it's like, no, you can do you and I can do me, and we can live in harmony and unity at the same time within that. And so that's been a lot of fun for me, and I've just been enjoying life a lot more. And I think, like, you can even see that, and I think a lot of people in my life can see that, hopefully, that I was a little bit of a I was a little bit of a hard ass there for a while, for about 2 years. And so, yeah, I've just been loving life lately. And yeah, I think we've had similar conversations with that, of just like with you becoming a father and other things, but I'll let you speak to that maybe.
Yeah, I think there's also, it's funny you're saying this, because this is going to sound completely contradictory, but it makes sense to me. So I've been watching a bunch of, just when we're hanging out with Sebastian, my show of choice has been Hotel Hell with Gordon Ramsay. I love seeing him just tear into people who are arrogant and who are just being difficult, because he knows what he's talking about. And after he tears into them, he will see them the next day and say, I don't want to yell at you again. Let's solve these problems. And he's not just there to like yell at people. But anyways, that to say, Gordon Ramsay, when he goes through these, he is not there to waste time, and he is not there to baby these people. And he's like, you're $1 million in debt with your hotel. No one's showing up. You're about to lose the hotel, and you're about to lose your house, and you're about to put 10 people out of a job. Let's prevent that from happening, right? That's like the premise of like almost every episode is, right? Because they're about to, the hotel's doing terribly, whatever. And watching him just come in and be like, I'm going to identify problems. We are going to solve problems. And he always starts with like solving the person's like worldview and their mental state first, where he's like, you need to look at this differently. Like that's how he starts. And then he goes into, then we'll solve your problems of like your water's not working well or your rooms need cleaning. He doesn't start with those and just say, hey, I'm going to give you a new hotel or an updated hotel and now you solve it. He's like, no, we need to solve with whatever the problem is with like the management or the employees, whatever. And that has been like making me think about how I go into life, because these people are not enjoying their life. And it's because not that they've been lazy about it, but they haven't, maybe this just ties back to like the intentionality. They just haven't been intentional with running it well. And they just let other things take priority. Like a lot of the times it's like beef between an owner and an employee. And if they literally just were to like talk and apologize, it would improve so many of the problems, but they're just too stubborn to do it. Or somebody, just needs a wake up call like, hey, you don't know how to cook. You shouldn't be in the kitchen with the chef causing problems, just like all these things. And it's kind of like got me thinking about my own life going, if Gordon Ramsay were to show up and just be like, what are you doing? Or would he say like, don't waste your time here, or like do this? Like, what would he say if he were to just like show up? Because what he wants is every time he walks in these hotels, he's like, this could be a beautiful hotel. And he's like, I don't want to see this hotel fail. Or it's like a family run and he's like, there's so much history here. I don't want to see this fail. And so I was like thinking about that and I was like, I started thinking about my own life of like, I don't want to see it fail and I don't want to mismanage it. And like what you're saying, this is where it sounds contradictory, is you're like, oh, enjoy life and like take it easy. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, I want to look at my own life and say, I want to enjoy it and I want it to run successfully and smoothly. And therefore, maybe this is the takeaway, is like, I'm going to be vigilant and aware of like problems, because none of these hotels failed overnight, right? It wasn't suddenly something happened. It was a long time of things failing, things being neglected, people not being treated well. And then they reached the point where it was a point of no return unless Gordon Ramsay, right, can come in and save the day. But it's like, I think that's how just your normal life goes because I'm saying this because these people in these situations are the opposite of enjoying life. They hate it. They hate that the hotel's falling apart. They're under huge amounts of stress. They're not enjoying their life whatsoever. And for example, like one of the ones was the owner was over controlling and gave a massive menu that made no sense to the chef, didn't give him any freedom. And so like Gordon Ramsay talks to the chef and he's like, I hate it. Like I am just barely surviving and I don't want to be here, but I don't have anywhere else to go. And he's like, I feel dead and like my love for cooking is completely gone. And he's like, I became a chef. He's been a chef for like 30 years and now he hates it. And so obviously Gordon Ramsay like redoes the menu and talks to the owner. And then he goes in the kitchen and cooks with the chef. And obviously that's the chef's like dream, is he's like, I would love to cook with Gordon Ramsay. They put a menu together. They build a menu together and he takes a bite of one of the dishes and he starts crying and he's like, you've literally reawakened like cooking for me and like change. And it's like, to get to that point, you have to either make sure you don't don't go down all those problems. You have to avoid them or solve them quickly. But also if you are in those problems, you need to like go through them to get out back to the point of enjoying life. Otherwise you were like them before Gordon Ramsay came in, just stuck, not enjoying life. And I think that's like, I don't know, that's what I've been thinking about a bunch too, is like, especially with the kid coming or a kid here. And it's like, what do I need to be watching out for that I don't just get sucked into something that I'm not even aware we're hitting rock bottom until you hit rock bottom. And I think that happens to so many people in so many areas, is you don't realize you're going downhill until you hit the bottom, and then you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that was wild, you know?
No, I identify. I don't think that's contradictory. I think both can be true. And I think that's where, like, I feel like that chef who has now rediscovered my love for cooking. I am now a person who has rediscovered my love for life, my love for Jesus, my love for myself. And I think for me, I did go through that like hotel hell of like how did we get so far away from like where we started? And I think for me, it was where I started with My Mountain specifically was working, and I was enjoying it, but it wasn't going as fast of a pace as I wanted it to be. I saw where I wanted to go, and I thought if I change these things about myself or about my mountain, we'll get there faster. And what it really did was create a whole lot of unenjoyment, and I lost who I was in a lot of those things. And where now I'm like, nope, what I was doing before was working. It was just working at a pace that was slower, but I believe will produce a bigger product. Now, I believe will produce a better future and more success, and the success that I want to see because I did it my way, God's way, and I enjoyed it along the way. And I think you hear this with a lot of, no matter what, career field you're in or what your hobby is that it's like those people who like stick to their roots, who don't lose who they are. Maybe they do, but then they rediscover it. It's like, I'm going to believe that this is going to work, and I'm going to continue doing this, and it's just going to take more time than maybe and I think that's what innovation is, right? Innovation is like doing something your own way, even though there is a proven way that already works. And I think that's where I got caught up into a lot of things, was like, I've seen this work for other people, so I want it to work for myself. But it worked for other people, and they probably enjoyed that it worked for them in that way, but I wasn't enjoying how I was living life or doing work or any of those things. So I don't think that's contradictory. I think it's the journey that I went through, and I think there was a period of time where I did have to take it seriously and actually think about, like, what is going on here? Like, why am I living life like this? Why am I thinking like this? And by God's grace, I think I'm on that other side of going, this is who I am. I'm passionate about it. I'm just going to stick with this and believe that it's going to work because I believe God's asking me to do it. So that's a good story. Love Gordon Ramsay. That dude on my list of people I want to meet. Yeah.
We got a spot right here.
Gordon. Yeah. Come sit on our little couch here. We'll have a great conversation. I think that's a good place to wrap up. Man, it feels good to be back here with you, man. It feels good to be talking about this. Can't wait to continue to do it consistently. So,
yeah.
Thanks for listening. Love y'all.
See you next time.
See ya.